Hello, my name is Katrin Meyerhofer. I'm your host for the AeroFuture Advanced Air Mobility Unveiled podcast. And today I'm thrilled to welcome Amin Vafadar, a visionary leader and advocate for advanced air mobility, to the AeroFuture podcast. With nearly a decade of experience in air transport systems, supply chain development, and aviation innovation, Amin has dedicated his career to advancing sustainable and technology-driven solutions within the aviation sector. So currently, as the executive director of the Advanced Air Mobility Institute, Amin is at the forefront of driving global collaborations in advanced air mobility policy, technology, and education. Furthermore, Amin's dedication to advancing civilization through sustainable and inclusive aviation solutions is really inspiring. We are excited to dive into a conversation with him today about the future of advanced air mobility, the challenges and opportunities ahead, and how we can collectively work towards a more connected and sustainable world. Welcome, Amin, with me. Hello to AeroFuture Advanced Air Mobility Unveiled, a new episode of our podcast with a special guest, Amin Vafadar. Hi, Amin.
Hi, Catherine.
How are
How's
you
it going?
today?
Perfect. Over the moon. Meeting you again here. It's always exciting.
Yeah, we're still having a gap to fill, and that is having a beer in person.
Oh, yeah. I always mention that. Yeah, I think
Yes.
you owe me one. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I owe you one and minimum. Yes, and minimum one. Yeah, that's so true. So I mean, it's great that you're here. Maybe you can tell us a bit about your journey into the aviation industry and what inspired you to focus on advanced air mobility, and what are you currently doing?
Well, exciting. Well, an obsessive passion for learning, always. So it began with a dream of being more than normal. If I think I had 12 years old, firstly, when I was looking at the sky and I was like, people, they are all walking on the ground. Some flying. So how about learning to fly? So, it started my journey with a diploma in aviation and then joining college in university for an associate degree in aeronautical science and continuing aeronautical science. And at the same time, I could never be settled, never, like just being only a student, no. And at the same time, I was working with different airlines, exploring the air transport system, not again, just flight or airlines. Although, yeah, I explored different, sectors, supply chain, airline business, operation, training, everything I could say. So I never call myself a sort of expert in one aspect because you know that when you have obsessive passion for learning, you always leave something unfinished. So later I decided to, well, be a pilot and I started my flight training, accomplished my private pilot license, commercial pilot license, instrument rating, and well, I was pursuing toward being an airline pilot. And well, I hope my airline colleagues never hear this, never hear this from me. But I asked myself, I mean, okay, you gotta make a decision for future. Are you going to transfer passengers from A to Z only, and that is your whole life? And so, well, that was just like a spark in my mind. I was like, no, I want to do more than that. I want to have an impact globally, and perhaps if I can make it for the civilization. So that's how it all began. And well, while thinking about future of aviation, okay, I am an aviator. So, how about future? Here we go. Advanced air mobility is happening, and lots of values within to serve civilization with advanced air mobility.
Absolutely. And how have these experiences shaped your perspective on the future of advanced air mobility?
Well, definitely. So I can tell you what values I see within advanced air mobility. let me take you through a journey toward transcendence. We previously discussed about this. We had conversation about this together.
Right.
So here for audience as well, my perspective, um, it's coming from let's say a human civilization values. Speaking about civilization, we have a philosophy from someone called Nikolai Kardashev. It's originated from 1964. They call it Kardashev scale. It kind of divides civilization into 3 to 5 different types of civilization. Well, by Kardashev, it was divided initially into 3. Later on, other scientists decided to extend it up to 5 types of civilization. And just a quick background about this type of, civilization. It's about energy. It considers the energy needs and at the same time knowledge of the civilization
Right.
into these categories. And the interesting fact is that the human civilization at this time is not even on the scale. We are type 0.
Yeah, that's a shame for us, isn't it? A little
It's all
bit.
about development, and we are on the right path. We are on the right path, I believe. And so we can see the way that knowledge, science, technology, everything accelerates so fast, not like before, but each and every year, even faster, speaking of acceleration. So, well, what we have seen before in history, for example, how long it took to have, I don't know, a jumbo jet flying for commercial use, well, it took years. How about now? The same technology or complexity of systems doesn't take that much time anymore for human to explore or to develop. So how about type 1? So it's about the designation given to a species who have been able to harness all energy that is available from planets and neighboring stars. It means gathering and storing the energy for a growing population. And comparing to our civilization, it means it requires current civilization energy boost by 100,000 times. So it might be a question: 100,000 times boost in energy gathering and storing for human at this time. We are close to it. Some scientists, they believe that we are only 100 years or 200 years away from type 1. And it's not that much. Perhaps for me, for my age, might be a question, but for civilization with the history of thousands of years, no, we are
Right.
so close. And a quick recap for different types of civilization for our audience. Type 2 is, it means when we are able to, or a species, we are able to control stars. Means, for example, imagine that if a star or anything coming toward the Earth for explosion, for a hit, imagine that you have the ability to vaporize that star in the space. That means
Right.
being able to control even stars. And type 3 is what we have seen in movies, galactic travelers, but that requires biological and mechanical significant advancement and differences. And type 4 harness energy of the entire universe. It means all other galaxies or whatever, not only stars around us. And type 5, it's something like a god to be able to manipulate the universe.
Right.
That's why I call it a journey toward transcendence. And so, speaking about all this, getting back to type 0 and type 1, it's about energy and so on. While it's about advancement, it's also about sustainability. Can we please not destroy ourselves before reaching type 1? you
Yeah,
know?
that could help. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You have a valid point here that we are sometimes wasting all the goods we have from Mother Earth for probably nonsense reasons.
Resources, knowledge, time
Mm.
of our scientists developing only, for example, defense matters and using those defense materials, for example, is that for the public benefit? Of course, we have not to talk about politics or what is happening, conflicts around the world, but for human sake, it's about us, and our time is the most valuable resource that we have at this time. So it's about it's about sustainability to sustain our advancement. And that is something that I genuinely appreciate about United Nations for developing sustainable goals, development goals, SDGs. They have 17 SDGs, including sustainable cities, no poverty, and the gender equality, everything that we can imagine. Of course, climate change and waste management, 17 most important topics, and initiatives that we must work on in order to be sustainable. I haven't seen anything about, for example, the civilization advancement or any relation between UN Sustainable Development Goals and this Kardashev scale. But I want to point out that there is a relation. If we can be successful for these 17 UN SDGs and be fully sustainable, and we can, of course, we can accelerate toward developing our energy without a dependence on, for example, natural resources, dead plants or animals on the earth. That means, advancing ourselves and being civilization type 1 for the first time. So that's why I highly value all this 17 SDGs developed by UN. And when speaking about, well, aviation, transportation, mobility, how can we justify this? We need a change. We need a revolution. And this is what makes advanced air mobility a different scenario comparing to previous transportation modes we had, and something truly valuable for civilization around the globe, speaking about sustainability. So many think that advanced air mobility is about eVTOLs, electric vertical takeoff and landing vehicles. But that's not true. To some points, I respect and I agree with David from Robinson speaking about there is no, for example, advanced air mobility. It already exists, or we have it there. We have helicopters, VTOLs. What makes the difference with just putting an E, making it electrified? But the advanced air mobility in a whole, we believe that it's kind of driven by 4 elements: autonomous aviation, smart infrastructure, uncrewed aerial vehicles, and sustainable propulsion. And this is with these 4 ingredients and elements we can define a new mode of mobility, or even, let's call it, a value chain or a whole ecosystem to serve all humanity around the world with no difference for example, in terms of accessibility and integration. First, to be sustainable, and also, of course, to be accessible and affordable. And these ingredients are necessary for implementation of AAM. And these are what makes AAM different than our previous, let's say, style of transportation and mobility.
Yeah, I agree. Even if I have a struggle sometimes with being sustainable and talking about batteries, This is, for me, that doesn't go hand in hand. So even if we, in ELSA ourselves, we have a development of a drone, right, where we have an electric version of it as well, of course. But in the end of the day, I think we need to pay attention, the entire industry need to pay attention when we're talking about sustainability, that the entire supply and production chain is sustainable. And that means to close the cycle, recycling. So, and there are a lot of topics not yet taken under consideration when it comes to electrification of vehicles. Nevertheless, I think it's a mandatory step we need to take. I'm not against it. Don't get me wrong here, people. Maybe I will have no access to the Aero in Friedrichshafen next month, if I talk about electrification. No, I'm not against it, but what I'm saying is we need to pay attention that the whole cycle is really sustainable, to call it sustainable technology. Because if the CO2 footprint of the production and the recycling is higher than during the consumption of it,
Exactly.
then it's not sustainable. So So we need to be very careful with this kind of things, and but I can see how difficult it is in a daily procedure to be 100% sustainable. It's almost impossible. So that would mean I'm not charging my phone. I'm not using a mobile, right? So a cell phone. So it's if I want to be sustainable, I'm without technology actually. I
Yeah.
would say. So this is the reality. Nevertheless, I agree 100% with what you're saying. And when we are talking about these four pillars, what do you think are the biggest challenges the industry is facing to overcome the challenges we are having actually to integrate them in the advanced air mobility technology? For example, regulations, safety, these are some keywords, right? So what is your personal perception? What do you think it's mandatory for the industry to succeed?
Well, of course, the most critical question on the table right now in the whole ecosystem. So I want to talk about my personal
Right.
perspective, not
Absolutely.
on behalf of experts or anyone, just my own personal understanding, which may not be acceptable by so many. So, well, yeah, right now, the industry, the technology advancement and companies, the stakeholders, they are suffering by regulatory aspects, bottlenecks, red tapes, or not receiving enough support by regulators. And, well, regulators are also right at the same time. They are talking about the support, but they require safety measures and indicators. So it's a story of egg and chicken again,
Yes.
that we are suffering right now at this state. And at the same time, the rest of stakeholders, OEMs, well, they need support at the same time. They have a responsibility against their in terms of their investments, return on investment, the workforce that they have. They are responsible for their workforce, and at the same time, they need a market and, of course, again, a framework by regulators to make this possible for deployment. But I can, in order to give this a meaningful order, I would start with public perception and acceptance. I believe when we want something, when we need something, I'm talking about the majority of a community. In a country, let's say the whole citizens. And if they want something, they are able to push governments to develop those, regulations. And so
Absolutely.
on, well, yeah. And so, therefore, there will be regulations for OEMs or the rest of stakeholders to comply to, because at this time, they don't have anything to comply, whether they might be agree or disagree, whether it might be tangible, attainable, or may not be attainable. So it's about what we are looking for. So if we have a public acceptance and public collaboration for in a sort of enhanced trust for deployment and implementation of this technology, a sense of, a feeling of need that we need this will automatically, enhance the whole stakeholder, the value chain for all of them. Regulators, there will be obligation for them to develop frameworks and so on. OEMs will have something to comply to, and municipalities and the rest of, let's say, stakeholders within a geography. Speaking of cities, they will have a responsibility to develop required infrastructure. This will lead toward smart cities as well. At the same time,
Right.
this is all inevitable, but it's a story of egg and chicken. And what I believe is that the first thing is public education, public awareness to enhance public trust and acceptance. And public acceptance is something that you cannot prevent after
No.
that, what they want or what they need. I'm not trying to create a revolution wave here.
No, 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 but you're totally right. I mean, the best example is what happened in Paris at the Olympic Games with volocopter, the
Well,
public perception. So you see that the boycott was so big because for many, many not correct information the broader public had, which were leading to this boycott. And,
yes,
this is exactly the point about we need public perceptions and acceptance, and we need the safety, and we need to educate the broader public. Because what the key problem, I think, is that everybody have crazy ideas what is going to happen above their heads, without fundamental information. And I think this is the key problem.
exactly, exactly. So perhaps now I can mention about our efforts at the Institute. Well, recently being appointed as the executive director at the Advanced Air Mobility Institute, we have, concrete mission statement
Right.
to educate and advocate for the broadest public benefit through the aviation ecosystem globally. This is how we are trying to fill this gap between future and today. Speaking of advocacy and public awareness, having different public awareness campaigns. So what you mentioned about what happened about in Paris it was exactly a wrong timing. Imagine that you are introducing a technology, and for example, the majority they don't know what is this about, and they think it's only about a new investment business plan for investors for a new technology, and for clients, speaking of privileged few, only, for example, rich community, and this is what will happen. And so this is why first education and awareness is important before introducing something into the market. And what is the market? Who is the market? Actually, it's people, around the world, and not only privileged few, but also the whole community. And even speaking about any business plan or the market, if I am a sort of OEM manufacturing a product, I need market, I need to sell this vehicle. So of course, initially it's inevitable. It will be expensive because there is, a huge R&D, research and development cost associated with this because it's a new thing.
It's
And
millions.
so, yeah, so there will be a kind of segmentized market. The deployment and implementation will be into different segments. And of course, the first segment is not going to be cheap or perhaps affordable. I would love to see that affordable even during the first years for the whole public benefit. But in terms of private use cases, speaking about as a passenger, for example, of course, it's not going to be cheap. That is again why we are educating stakeholders and advocating for the public benefit when we are trying to highlight public safety, aeromedical, and emergency response use
Right.
cases. This is it. So imagine, of course, being a passenger, I can pay to fly with these air taxis. I can take a Archer, Joby, whatever, to fly, for example, from A to Z. I may not be able even to afford the EHang to have a sightseeing time in Dubai. So how can I be benefited from this vehicle, from these new technologies? And how about having public safety services, for example, let's say having governments using a few of these vehicles to reduce response time and save lives. And
Exactly.
now my life also is being affected by these vehicles, and I can say, okay, there is a minimum benefit for me as a citizen in this country, for example. And
Absolutely.
at the same time, it enhances acceptance.
Yeah, the thing is, when it comes to public acceptance and education, we need to remind the people that we had the same discussion with helicopters in the past. We had the same discussion with airplanes in the very beginning. Why
Yes.
does the world need it? Why can only rich people afford it or wealthy people afford it, right? And over the time, it became accessible for everybody, which is normal. It's the same for the automotive industry, for any industry. If you develop something, you have high costs in the beginning. You need to
Yes.
put them back into your company because probably you have a couple of hundred millions you're owning to an investor or to a bank, right? So I think the people need to understand that yes, in the beginning you're totally right. It won't be for everybody's money accessible. That's impossible with any new technology. But on the other hand, I want to point out the case you just mentioned for what is my benefit. So I can give two examples where two family members of me have been transported with a rescue helicopter. It was once my father, once my son. And in both cases, I have never been more grateful that we have those kind of possibilities. Nevertheless, it's like, how can I say, we were talking about that golden hour in the medical field, which means the pilot need to fly, you need to be loaded, you need to be flown to the hospital, you need to be unloaded again, right? And it all takes time. But what the most of the people are not aware, when you are having a stroke or a heart attack or something is happening, my son had burnings, right? He had 3-degree burnings. So this is where every single second is counting. And when you have the possibility of a technology, in those cases, making those rescue missions faster, I'm totally pro it, because I had it twice in the past already, where every single second is counting. So I don't understand why people are not trying to change the perspective. What is happening? And it can happen to anybody at any time. You're entering your car, you go on the road, you have a horrible accident, and you need to be rescued. And this is when this technology comes in place, rescuing probably your life one day. So, and I think this is somehow how we need to switch this around. It's not, oh yeah, we are so cool and we're the fastest and we have new technology. It's about, no. We are in a very high comfort zone, but still we are not at the limit and we can do better. And this is what I see in advanced air mobility technology. That's my personal opinion on it. So,
Totally. Definitely. Definitely. So something that just came to my mind to mention is that yes, now we are through R&D projects process for these new technologies, and it is worth mentioning that during 2010 something was highlighted and gained more attraction, responsible research and innovation. And this is really important to actually be responsible when we are moving toward developing new technologies. Of course, having all the ingredients integrated, sustainability, ethics, whatever. The true progress is measured not just by the speed, or let's say, most importantly, by its longevity and long-term impacts.
right.
Sustainability is the linchpin for the future of mobility, ensuring that aviation, this new mode of transportation, and infrastructure serve humanity without compromising the planet at the same time. And while, of course, AAM must be driven by clean energy, efficient urban planning, and circular economies that minimize waste, as you mentioned previously, while maximizing benefit. So it is worth mentioning that a sustainable future is meaningless if it's not inclusive.
Yes.
Providing equitable access to all communities, regardless of geography and socioeconomic status. Again, so as you may remember, that an analyze we had through 74 countries survey we had during our forum, Global AAM Forum,
Yes.
that was obvious that all 74 countries, at least I can tell you, I can't exactly remember the number for the majority, but at least 95% of all those countries, they agree and they believe that public safety and services use case is the best and what is applicable for their countries. not
Yes.
only from a perspective of acceptance to create the business model, but also for to serve a majority of people. So it is obvious. And at the same time, unfortunately, we had air taxi services at the end of the list. It doesn't mean that it's not well useful. Of course, I need my politicians, I need my business peoples, I need our leaders to travel fast.
Right.
So even at the beginning, that's what I want from, for example, leaders in my ecosystem.
Fast
So
and cheaper. And I think we need to point that out that it's cheaper. So this is one of the things, air taxi, right? When we just calculate it down to the right, it's for sure cheaper than with a helicopter. This is the truth. So a helicopter is the consumption. I can just tell you, 8 minutes flight to rescue my former boss with an accident was 8,500 euros. He had to pay himself because he's privately insured. So,
yes,
it's not 8 minutes. Again, the helicopter have to come pick you up, fly you to the hospital, have to go back to his hangar. Nevertheless, it's 8,500 euros for 8 minutes transportation for him as a person into a hospital.
definitely.
So, and if I look to the calculations of the companies who are somehow providing figures, we are way below these kind of figures. So
Yeah.
I think when we're talking for those use cases, we need to mention that in the most cases, most definitely, it will be much cheaper than, for example, leasing a jet just for one person flying around with a jet, probably. Or, they go short distance sometimes with their jets, right? So why not to do it more sustainable with an air taxi, also for lower costs? So there's nothing from my point of view what speaks against, but nevertheless, there is an inequality somehow in the entire system, right? And currently, I think even with all the elections we had lately, we can see that the people very, in general, are unhappy with the inequality of the world.
Yes.
So, and that hits us as well, right? So we have to pay attention as an industry to those topics, like safety priority in aviation is the highest in entire industries, beside medical equipments, of course. They are very safe as well. But also when we're talking to safety and the integration of autonomous systems, there is a lot of priority towards safety included. When we are talking about inclusivity, it's a key topic for our work, and we need to ensure that it benefits the diverse communities and doesn't exacerbate existing inequalities, which could happen if we don't do it right.
Yes.
So, nevertheless, we have so many countries where we have not good or at all accessible areas where this technology brings a high value to whole communities for the connectivity, for medical treats, for, I don't know, blood transport, organ transport, food even, right? So I don't think in the mountains there will be a driver by car deliver your food with a 4-hour ride into the mountains due to the bad infrastructure, but with a drone, it could be served. So there are several topics and aspects we are looking at, and I think this is exactly where we need to educate, that we are not talking about replacing existing functioning infrastructure and inventing the wheel new for no matter the cost. This is not the aim of our industry. The aim of our industry is to fill the gaps, to connect the broader public, the cities, the villages, right, the suburbans, with the big cities, and having all their benefits, because I'm coming from the countryside. I know what it means when there's not even a bus. So, and this is the reality still in Germany. We have regions there's not even a freaking bus, right? Or or a train or an airport close or whatever. So I think these are some important points. Nevertheless, when we are looking toward the future, what is your personal vision for the future for our industry?
Well, firstly, kudos to you. You're driving the conversation, connecting dots very well. So exactly, as you said, filling the gaps, we are looking to utilize these technologies to optimize civilization for better connectivity, accessibility, and of course, providing an inclusive, inclusive services. So again, moving on from equal access, and this means, designing aircraft that accommodates diverse needs, ensuring affordability, creating policies that prioritize equitable expansion at the same time. And of course, inclusivity also extends to workforce development, ensuring that diverse voices shape the industry, and that opportunity is not limited by geography and demographics.
Exactly.
So, but inclusivity cannot thrive in isolation. It requires collaboration, a shared effort between governments, industries, and communities to drive forward an ecosystem that is built for all. So I believe we need to work on ourselves first if we are going to impact something. Again, to mention, this was wrong to start talking about advanced air mobility for public perception by mentioning air taxes. You know,
Yes, I think that was the biggest mistake we could have been doing.
that was the biggest mistake to start,
Yeah.
promoting, advertising for advanced air mobility, or even, let's say, early days, eVTOLs as a vehicle or a tool for air taxi only. So that was wrong. So we need a broad perspective. We need a holistic approach for our own education mindset first. We need to work on different strategies and policies internally, speaking about all the stakeholders one by one, OEMs, smart city, associations, vertiports, all the stakeholders to develop sort of responsible policies first for a big picture. Speaking about, for example, ESG, environment, social governance policies.
Right.
And if we do that, so of course, we will be able to have a balanced approach. And a balanced approach means serving everything while having an inclusivity. That makes it possible. And that means also a shared goal. Because when we have different business approaches. Okay, you are serving to one company, I am a different company. We might have different business cases. That is not something to collaborate, perhaps. But having a concrete ESG approach, environment, social, and governance approach, those are values which are common most of the time between me and you. So that is when and where we can merge and integrate our efforts toward collaboration. So to answer your question more directly, it takes collaboration at this time, a collective intelligence approach to merge our efforts. That will also reduce costs, at the same time for R&D or whatever. We need to kind of prevent this solicitation status around the world and create a roundtable so we can work together. And collaboration, I think, is the key.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I know, there are two groups in our industries. They are the one group is they are very collaborative, right? Where we are working intensively together and exchanging, and there is no question about somebody could steal my idea. That's not even there because there's a lot of trust between a certain group of people, let's say. And then there are the others. They are fearing that somebody could take away their chance to be the first on the market, to have the biggest share of the cake and stuff like that. But when we're talking about politics, it becomes more difficult when we are looking towards this implementation because of several other interests, and especially in sustainability. When I'm looking toward green hydrogen technology for the broader public, for cities, we're just standing in our own way. It's not the case that the technology is not existing, that the technology is not safe, but there is oil and gas. Let's be honest. And, where we're saying in German, it's called a crow is not picking out the eye of the other crow. So, and this is why we're so slow actually with implementation. It's because of several interests on a political level. It's not because the technology isn't ready. And sometimes I have the sense that it's the same case for our industry. It's a lot of politics involved, and it's if I could make a wish, my wish would be that we forget about what is ending up in our pockets, but what we can do better for a better future for all of us, for our children, for our grandchildren. So, I mean, your time is endless, my time is endless. As you just said, we won't even hit level 1.
Yes.
We will not be physically here when it's happening. Hopefully, it's going to happen. But I think this is the biggest challenge, if you ask me, to align the technology with the political global interests and ongoing disputes between countries. Let's put it this way. I think that's a real challenge for our industry, and sometimes I have no idea how we can do that. Right? It's especially when you look towards Europe. If Europe is not even having one voice, then it's difficult to implement those topics. So I'm counting a little bit more on other countries, to be the pioneer in this scenario, and to showcase. And I think that's one of the moments that people will better accept it, when we bring the proof of the concepts in flight, that the technology is working, that the technology is safe, it's sustainable, and it's at one point also accessible for everybody. So, and I think this is maybe a shout out to all politicians here. Let's do that together, because we need those vehicles in the air, by flying them and demonstrating in flight that it's safe, because this is how we did it in aerospace ever since we are flying. We had to prove concepts in the air and find the acceptance, also showcasing that still after a year or two, it's still safe. And nothing happened, right? And we all know if an accident happens in aerospace, it's a disaster. It can easily lead to lockdowns of companies, because the fleet is grounded, and there are high costs. So I think if we're talking, before we talk about mass production and mass use cases and all of these funny words, I think we should bring one of each into the air for a while, and showcase and invite the people for open days, that everybody can look at, touch it, sit in it. I don't know, right? I think this is the way we need to do things. It's like with a child. A child is usually curious, and if you keep them away from it, they are having fears. But if you let them go and touch it and play with it, they lose the fear. And I think this is what we need to do. Let's have a rapid fire question round. What's one book, podcast, or resource you'd recommend to anyone interested in the advanced air mobility?
What book in advanced air mobility?
Yeah,
Or
what would you recommend? Which book or resource in general, or podcast, or I don't know, articles, journals? Which which would you recommend? Okay, beside the institute now. That would be too
Yes.
easy. Beside
Yeah.
the Advanced Air Mobility Institute, which research would you recommend to anyone interested in?
As just mentioned, for our own knowledge, we need to work on ourselves first. I believe sustainability knowledge is important at this time, and it's a seamless harmonization for us. It's crucial, and I would say not one specific book, but to read about, for example, ESG, as I just mentioned, and the rest of sustainability matters. Truly having environment, social governance. There are several books. This is really important for us because we are calling ourselves pioneers. So let's be educated pioneers and set up the backbone for ourselves with true environment, social, and governance impacts.
Wow, well said. Couldn't have said it better. Okay, next question. If you could have dinner with an aviation pioneer, living or dead, who would it be and why?
Well. Of course, lots of people like yourself, it's been almost a year. You're looking for that opportunity. Who would that be? I genuinely appreciate and admire knowledge with Mark Moore. So definitely, I recommend listening to him. Although he has lots of arguments even about our own eVTOLs AAM industry, which are questions to be addressed. And definitely, I'm looking forward to that.
That's cool. What's one misconception about advanced air mobility you'd like to clear up?
Misconception. It is not for privileged few. It is not for luxurious benefits. It is for changing the history, and future for our next generation, serving for the civilization to be accessible and more connected. And that means, again, enhancing civilization with connectivity and, of course, saving time.
Right. Looking towards the summer forum already. I know you're already in preparation with Bananda and the team, I assume. So I'm not sure if you already picked out a date. Most likely not. But probably you want to invite still our audience for the summer forum and what is waiting for them.
Good question. Well, summer forum will be in July. At least this is something that we can expect for July. No exact date yet because we need to coordinate the best preference for more than 80 countries. Right now, our board of liaisons include 78 country representatives, liaisons, and we are working hard to be able to represent nearly 90 countries for our summer global forum. And let's see how can we manage the best time in relation to 90 countries, because that is a lot. Well, I don't want to give a promise, but it's worth mentioning that the first ICAO AAM symposium held, they managed to bring together almost 87 countries.
Right.
And just by 88, nearly 90, we can exceed that, not to compete, but to add value and build on what is ICAO building for us.
Yes, well said. And I want to do a shout out to everybody supporting the Advanced Air Mobility Institute who have supported Amin and myself for the Winter Global Forum. And of course, I want to motivate all the country liaisons to keep going. You're doing a great and amazing job. It's really important that we merge all these informations globally and have a global view on it. And of course, for all the companies, the Institute, of course, is taking sponsors. So if you are interested in a sponsorship for the Advanced Air Mobility mission, then get in touch with Amin via the Institute, and you can, of course, get some more information here. Do you want to add something? Maybe I forgot something.
No, you're great. That was a great point, because as a non-profit it's obvious right now in our stakeholders, within our stakeholders, among our community that we are trying to create this gravity point, this global network at the institute for the good and benefit of all stakeholders. It is not for us as a non-profit. We are not after one objective for our own benefit, but also to serve our own stakeholders in this ecosystem. It means to serve service providers, OEMs, and everyone. So we are inviting everyone to this table, not only our global forum, but to any collaboration at the institute, so we can spread the voice around. And of course, the success in AAM and beyond is not defined by technological milestones alone, but by meaning of impact. It's about creating sustainable, inclusive, again to mention, inclusive and scalable solution that transform societies to improve lives and accelerate our journey toward more advanced civilization. As we talked about, true success exactly means transitioning from vision to reality, where AAM is no longer a concept of the future, but a fundamental part of our global mobility infrastructure. And of course, it's a moment when we realize that, together we are not just advancing aviation, we are advancing humanity toward a civilization type 1. So we are inviting all stakeholders to partake in this gravity point, and, well, I hope to see the new technology flying soon.
Couldn't have said it better. With these words, Amin, thank you for tuning in today and having this episode with me. And I think before the summer future, the, the summer forum is coming up, I think I will invite you again, of course, that we can discuss a little bit what is in detail then waiting for the people for the Global Summer Forum. And of course, if there is something upcoming meanwhile, then we do just an episode in between. Thank
Amazing.
you.
Thank you for inviting me, Catherine. Looking forward to see you again.
Thank you.